blessing. Oh, thank you, Marcus and Joni. And today has been so incredible. You know, it's really neat to be here to have the opportunity to minister, but then also be ministered to at the same time. I mean, it's been such a powerful morning, and I know so many people are getting touched and are calling for prayer, and don't stop calling for prayer. Because right now I want to talk to you about expecting, what you're expecting in your life. Because you just heard part of my story, and if my life would have ended the way it began, I would have thought I would have been a statistic or ended up on food stamps or just government assistance, and there was no more for me. But God knew that there was something out there for me, even though I didn't know about it yet. And you know what? I had to expect that my life wasn't going to end that way. Now, I was young, and I was a child, and I was a teen, and I didn't know whether or not to expect things in my life, but I did know something. I knew I do not want my life to end like this. I want better. I want more. And that want and that drive that God plants in us from birth help drive that expectation. Because in Hebrews 11:6, it says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. God wants us to expect more. He wants us to expect that our tomorrow is not going to be like today. He wants us to expect that the marriage can be better. He wants to expect that the kids will come to Christ. He wants to expect that there is more for us in business. He wants us to expect there is more for us in life, more joy, more everything, because God is an exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or thank God, according to Ephesians 3:20. God wants more for you, and He wants you to expect more. If you're at home right now, say, expect more. That's right, because it's what God wants you to do. You know, I didn't expect a whole lot out of our church. When we became pastors in a moment, and we had a church of 200, we didn't necessarily expect more out of our church, or we thought this is what life was going to be for us. But just curious about how things were going on, I would get up in the audio booth, and I would climb up in there, and I would count how many people were in the church. And I would count, and I would tell my husband, we had 194 today, honey. And he would say, don't count. I don't want to know those numbers. Just don't count. And then the next week I would say, oh, this week we had 202, honey. He'd say, don't count, don't count. But I wanted to count because I wanted to know when the increase came. You need to know when the increase comes in your life so it can help build your faith. And we were expecting more. And in order to expect more, that expecting is part of your faith. And Hebrews 11:1 says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We can't see the end of the thing from the beginning. So God has to plant those dreams inside of us. And I want to know right now, what is your dream? It's not too big. It's not too crazy. It's not obscene. What is your dream? God wants you to expect on the inside of this. And I don't think you have an accurate picture of what I'm talking about right now. So I'm gonna grab something off the floor. I'll be right here with you. I have a 22-year-old son, and I have an 8-year-old daughter, so I haven't been expecting in quite some time. But my sister recently had her first baby a couple of weeks ago, and she got pregnant. Well, she's 13 years younger than I am, and do you ever have that dream that you're naked in front of millions of people? Oh, wait, we'll fix that. So my sister is 13 years younger than I am, and she is a marathon runner. And as a marathon runner, she ran through her 3rd month of pregnancy and her 4th month of pregnancy and her 6 months of pregnancy. She's still out there trying to run. And my mom called me on the phone and she said, Nicole, I'm so worried about your sister. I don't know that she's going to have a baby. I don't think she's expecting this to really happen and to really come true. And I said, Mom, I think it's pretty obvious to all of us she's expecting. Well, a couple of weeks later, my mom called me on the phone again, like mamas do. You know, they like to call you and tell you everything that's going on in life. My mom called me up again and she said, oh, she has finally bought a nursery book and finally bought a baby names book. Nicole, I finally think your sister knows that she is expecting. And I said, Mom, I think she's known for a long time. But what my mom was excited about is my sister finally acted like something was changing in her life. And that's what we have to do with our faith. We have to expect something is changing in our life. Because when you're expecting, men, you know this about your wives, lady, when you've been pregnant, you know about this. When you're expecting, you walk different, you look different, things grow that you know are going to grow, and things grow that you wish hadn't grown. You can't wear these cute shoes. Now, I don't know if y'all can see this on TV, but I have on these cute shoes. But when you are pregnant, you cannot wear these cute shoes because you are not only talking different because you're talking all about what you're expecting, you're also walking different and you're touching different things and you're expecting different things because what you are expecting is affecting your whole life. And when you're expecting, people make room for you. You'll go to Target and there'll be a little sign in the very first parking spot that says, for expectant mothers. They expect you to park there. People will carry things for you because you're expecting. People will make room for you on a bus or on a subway. Oh, ma'am, have my seat. You're expecting. People make room for you when you're expecting. You know, what would have happened if Marcus and Joni hadn't expected to start that first television station? And hadn't expected to reach people around the world by adding a television station and another television station? What if that dream hadn't been planned in them? But they had it planned in them, and they worked it out, and they walked it out, and they expected it, and they worked hard, and people made room for them, and God led them. Matter of fact, I know they're preaching at Lakewood Church here in a couple of weeks. We were with the Osteens in Chicago last year for their Night of Hope event. And we were sitting down on the field, and the event was over, and we were talking to everybody, and we got distracted, and we started talking and visiting. And so what we did at the end of that is everybody was leaving the field, and we were some of the last people on the field, and we thought, oh, we better go. So I just watched the door that everybody else was walking through, so that's the door I headed for. And I just started walking along, and I was walking along. There's these two kind of bodyguard guys on either side, and they didn't stop me, and I looked like I knew where I was going, so I just walked right through, and I opened the door, and I walked directly into the Osteen family private dressing room. Thank goodness they weren't getting dressed at that particular moment, and thank goodness we were friends, but because I looked like I belonged there, because I was expecting to walk through that door, as I walked through, they let me go straight to that place that I thought I was supposed to be. When you're expecting, when you're talking it out, when you're walking it out, when you're expecting God to do great things in your life, God can do great and amazing things. And so, expecting also costs, though. You know, I don't know about you ladies or men, if you've noticed it on your wives, that after you've been pregnant, on me particularly, it looks like a tiger broke into my house one night and clawed me down one side, and he wasn't satisfied yet, so he clawed me down the other side and left these huge stretch marks on my body. And that's part of what the dream cost me. Well, my husband is so good to me, he tells me, baby, those aren't stretch marks, those are beauty marks. And I love him for that. But I have some scars left because of expecting and giving birth to my dream to my daughter. And when I was actually giving birth to my daughter, something that happened is while I was in the delivery room, she comes out, everybody's so excited, I know I'm tired, and then all of a sudden I see the face of the doctor turn white. And he says, nurse, get everybody out of here, take the baby out. And everybody leaves the room, and he looks at me, he says, Nicole, we're gonna be okay, I just need a few minutes, I need somebody behind me. And they start packing me with all this cotton and all this padding, and they start stuffing me full of all of it. And suddenly I'm pregnant with a bunch of cotton, and I find out I was bleeding very severely, and I was actually in danger of my life for a few moments. My dream almost cost me everything. Your dream might cost you a lot, but don't quit. The dream that God has planted in you, sometimes it hurts and it's a lot of work and there's stretch marks involved and there's pain and uncomfort involved at sometimes, but don't quit. God expects a lot from you, and you might be thinking, but I can't do it all. It is impossible for me. And it says in Matthew 19, it says, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Everything is possible for you. God planted that dream in you, and he wants you to have it. And make sure that you're not dreaming small enough that you can accomplish it on your own. Because if we can accomplish it on our own, it doesn't take faith. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. God wants us to believe for things that are bigger than ourselves. Like in 2 Kings 2, when Elisha and Elijah, I know you know this story, Elijah's getting ready to go to heaven. And as he's ready to go to heaven, Elisha is following him. And he's following him from Gilgal to Jericho to the Jordan, all these places, expecting that exchange to happen. And right before Elijah goes to heaven, he said, Elisha, what do you want? And Elisha says, I want a double portion of your blessing. I'm so glad he knew what he wanted, and I'm so glad he asked for double. But let me challenge you in this. Be careful dreaming small. Elijah did 7 miracles, and Elisha did 14. He did exactly double of what Elijah did. And then as soon as Elijah goes to heaven, Elisha turns around to the Jordan, hits it, the Jordan parts, and he walks right through, and everybody knows that he is a miracle worker, and he's the prophet of the time. But when I read that story, I thought, he just wasted one of his 14 miracles. Why didn't he ask for quadruple? Why didn't he ask for 10 times? He could have helped so many more people. If our church would have doubled at 200, we would have ended up at 400. If I'd asked for a little better life, I maybe have not been able to have the opportunity to share with you today. If you want just a little bit more, you might not be able to live out the full dream that God has planned for you, because remember, it's big. God has a big plan for you. Live it out, walk it through. In Luke, it says, ask, and the door shall be open. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and the door shall be open unto you. God wants to do great things in your life. Ask him today. Believe today. Don't let the dream die today, because today is the day that he wants to do great things in your life.